No idea how this is gonna go. I've not already off to a stinker. Not rehearsed anything. Not written anything down, and I've never put a video on YouTube before. But I'm just at a stage now where I sort of just want to start. I don't even know, man. Speaking, just sort of going over what I've done, what I've been through, and just sharing my story, really. Um, so a big turning point in my life, where my life all really changed, was in 2018 when my mum died. But leading up to that, were the worst months of my life, man. No question about it. So in 2017, I started noticing that my mum were deteriorating a little bit, and she was looking um, maybe skinnier and a little bit more frail, maybe. But at this stage, still pottering about, still making me snap. Um, and yeah, I was just sort of secretly thinking a little bit worried. I suppose I always worried about my mum anyway. It was just me and her sort of growing up. And yeah, so I things really started changing in early 2018 when mobility become sort of a lot worse. I noticed that she wasn't sleeping upstairs. Obviously, the stairs were getting too much, and I was working. I was still living with her. I worked. Um, I was 25, so obviously I get up, go to work or whatever. And I was dreading every time I'd walk back through the door as the sort of the months and the weeks went on. Like I say, early 2018, because I noticed she were getting worse, and I was living with a sickly feeling, like constantly living with a sickly feeling at work, just not myself, quiet, worrying. Because I was just like, what is happening? What's going off? And she wouldn't go to the doctors whatsoever. I could not get her to go to the doctors at all. She was probably scared of what they might say, something like that. So she just kept saying she had a bad back, it were a bad back, it were a bad back, sort of thing. And I was just trying to believe her, but in the same breath, I sort of knew deep down that there were a bit more to it than that. Got to a stage where I wasn't seeing her walk. I was really concerned about what she were eating, so I were bringing her stuff home from the work canteen, like trying to get her to eat sandwiches, and sort of begging her to go to the doctors, and she never really wanted to. But my mental state at this time were like really, really bad. It was super, super. Um, I was just constantly stressed, living with stress, and I didn't want to tell anyone either. I told my partner, but like I said, I was just relaying what mum was saying, that she had a bad back and all of this sort of stuff, and she lost the mobility, and I was worried. So obviously, at this point, my partner, I suppose, just thought that it were a bad back. We'd not been together too long, or I think we'd been together for a while, but I think at this stage, my mum wasn't really having visitors around or whatever, so I'd go to her house and sort of tell her what I was worried about and that sort of stuff. But obviously, it continued to get worse, and I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want to admit what were happening. So, like, I didn't tell any of my friends or at work, wasn't saying anything about it, but I was so stressed. Like every time I text mum, I'd be like watching my phone to make sure she texts back, all that sort of stuff, and I couldn't really enjoy my life at all because I was just constantly worrying. Um, so this continued up until from like January. This continued up until like May. Um, Honestly, I can't like begin to explain how shit, for lack of a better word, how crap it was. Um, Really, really stressful time. And then I'd stopped out one night because my mum still wanted me to enjoy my life. Um, I stopped out one night and then I come home and I sort of found her on the floor. She'd been there probably all night and couldn't get to the phone. But like every time I'd go to walk into my house, the feeling that I would get was dread to a degree that I couldn't even like say in words. It was anxiety. I don't even know if anxiety is the word. A massive dread, like blackness to me. Like the feeling of just oh. And then obviously, not obviously, but I found her on the floor. She was still alive, but she'd been there all night. Not a very good image, obviously, to walk into. So at this point, I'd always obeyed her really when it come to ringing an ambulance because she was immobile for a long time, weeks, months maybe. But I was just like taking care of her in a sense of like sitting with her and what she needed, I would get her. And yeah, it was a lot to deal with. And at this time, I went behind her back because she would always say, "No, no, I'm not going to the hospital," and I was sort of obeying her wishes. But this time, I sort of said, "Look, enough's enough. I've obviously found you on the floor. I'm ringing an ambulance." So an ambulance come, and we went to hospital, and then I actually went home because she wanted me to go home, get some dinner. That's just how she was. Get some tea. And I said, all right, I'll come back in the morning because it was quite late when we were waiting to get her a bed or whatever and waiting to get her checked. So I went home, slept, and then I went to the hospital the next day to see my mum. And then when I went to the ward that I found out that she was on, I just saw the look on like the nurse's face, like, oh, you're for this woman. And like I say, that feeling in my stomach, like walking up the hospital stairs and going in the lift and that sort of thing, it was so difficult because I just had a dread and like an anxiety about what they were going to say. And they sort of told me, that your mum's really, 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 really poorly. Obviously, not obviously. I keep saying obviously, like I don't know, but really, really, really poorly. It was sort of tumour, and when you don't treat a tumour, I don't know how much I'm relaying this exactly accurate, but from what I understand, I had like tumour. I think it was like a skin tumour, but it just gone completely untreated, and it grown and grown and grown and grown, and then it led to blood clots like on her heart, on her lungs, because I think cancer can clot your blood, thicken your blood. Sorry don't know why I'm apologising if that's wrong. I'm no doctor, but I think that's what I got from it. Hope were very, very slim, and it were really just about getting my mum comfortable. So at that point then, for the last sort of 3 days, stopped in a camp bed next to my mum. And it got to a point where, look, we're going to stop trying to thin her blood. We're just going to try and get her comfy. It's pretty much imminent. And she did pass away, and got to obviously talk to her and things like that before she passed away. And we were like watching programs on telly. She still kept a sense of humour, do you know what I mean, to the very end. It were a really horrible time, them few months like leading up to it, probably even more so than when she actually died, because it was just so stressful, and the unknowing proper like went through the mill with it. And then what went on sort of after that was a lot of trying to block out stuff, so a lot of drinking, a lot of stuff where just anything to take away the I don't know, the thoughts and stuff like that, and just sort of really not living a great lifestyle, to be honest. But yeah, like I said, just me and my mum. So I have a lot of good memories of being a kid. We lived over the road from the school, and yeah, nothing but good memories as a kid. Really, to be honest, it was a good childhood, and she always, really did look after me and whatever. My dad was in my life as well. Mum and dad weren't together, but um, it kept me golfing and that sort of stuff and whatever. So when my mum died, I got closer with my dad. My dad had cancer as well at this time, but we sort of knew about my dad's cancer, and it was prostate cancer, and you can live quite a long normal life with that. So when my mum died, I got close to my dad, um, and yeah, my dad died. I was actually at work in a different part of the country, and I got a phone call saying in 2023 that my dad had died. So um, yeah, now I lost both my parents. But what I'm sort of wanting to speak about as well is like my actions, like after that, dealing with grief and things like that, like blanking stuff out, just leading a trail of destruction, really. Luckily, my partner, she sort of stuck with me through it all, and now I'm trying to repay her with being a better man and being on the straight and narrow, and yeah, all that sort of stuff, really. But yeah, like blanking stuff out was definitely. Um, I mean, I suppose we all do, don't we? Really, at some form of it. Like, I don't know, a couple of days when we finish work and stuff like that. But I was sort of taking it to the next level. So I would never say that I was an alcoholic, 'cause that's just not true. But binge drinking, most definitely. Uh, Drinking at weird times on my own, that sort of stuff. For the last few years, definitely. Not knowing when to stop drinking, um, just trying to get rid, all that sort of stuff. But I went through like years of being really reckless. And then in 2023, I got my life back on track, sort of thing. And then my dad died, and then I think for about a year there was a bit more of it. And then this time I'm, put a stop to it. But it's just about, yeah, about sort of blanking, a lot of blanking stuff out. And I want to call it blanking out, but I don't even know if that's what I'm doing or what I was doing, to be fair. I've got no idea about why. But there was definitely a difference from my drinking to when my mum died to before. Definitely. There was other stuff like that I want to speak about as well. I don't know if I'm going to put it all in one video. I want to do more videos on this channel as well, and just start speaking about what I went through a little bit more. But yeah, that'll probably do for a Tuesday night and my first video. So yeah, Randall's World. Yeah, so that's a bit of my story, and yeah, just as well, I've sort of found a lot of pleasure in running. Running really helps me, to be honest, and I'm about to run my third London Marathon in April, raising money for visually impaired children and young adults, or trying to raise money anyway. Get that sub 4 hour this year. And yeah, training I love, and just keeping my life on track that way. I've got a daughter now, so that's massive positives in my life at the minute, and it's going a lot better than what it's been. Starting to see like glimpses of happiness, but you've still got to sort of be responsible for, no matter what happens, you've still got to be like responsible for your behaviour. I think that's what I'm trying to do now, is obviously turn it around. And I just like speaking like this as well, even though I'm sort of speaking to myself like a bit of a weirdo. But yeah, that is it. It's my first YouTube video.